What's up, millionaires? In today's episode, we have a special treat for you. I recently did a one-on-one consulting call with one of our listeners and felt like there was a lot of things we talked about that many of you could learn from as well. So Michelle reached out to Mike to see if we could publish the call that we had on the MU podcast, which he said, yes, of course. So that's what we got for you today. Mike is a super bright guy who I have no doubt is going to kill in his business, but he was just a little stuck. So in today's episode, we helped him overcome some things, and I hope it does the same for you. Without any further ado, I give you our very own MU listener, student, future entrepreneur extraordinaire, Mike Bowman. What's up, Mike?
Hey, man, how's it going?
Good.
I've been listening to your podcast for 7 or 8 months, and there was an episode where a guy that you were talking to, he was having some challenges similar to me, and you turned it into a podcast episode. So I thought, hey, if he's having conversations like that with others, I'll reach out. Who knows? I'll reach out and see if you do some sort of consultant work. And what I learned from Michelle is this is not something that you typically would do. But I said, listen, I'll reach out. The worst you say is no. And the best outcome is we get on a call like we are here today. So a little bit about me. I'm calling you from Newfoundland in Canada. I'm 43. I got 2 young boys. They're 6 and 9, married for 7 or 8 years. I work for a software company as a chief revenue officer, doing sales and marketing growth my entire career. Realized over the last 4 or 5 years, I'm pretty good at what I do, but I don't want to keep doing this for someone else. I want to start creating for myself. And I've been hemming and hawing about this and thinking, what should I do? What can I do? And you listen to other podcasts before yours, and it's like, hey, figure out what you're passionate about. Do that. I'm like, well, I like to play guitar, but I'm not going to be a musician tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, Justin, that's kind of where I'm stuck right now. So some of your episodes talk about like write out what success looks like. What does a year from now look like? I call it a vision map. I've done these sort of exercises. It's not the passion to want to do it or the effort or the drive. I know I have that. It's I'm stuck in, and I'm sure you hear this all the time, stuck in like, what does that next step look like? There's 1,000 things I could be doing. There's 10,000 things I could be doing.
Millions of things you could be doing. Yeah.
Right. And I guarantee you, I've been thinking and overthinking this for as long as I could tell you, but how do I get to the point of, okay, this is what I'm going to do? And that's where I'm stuck. There's a whole lot more to it than that.
But yeah, I try to be very careful because I don't want to be that guy that someone gets on with and I've known you for like 2 minutes and like, go do this. And now you go spend the next 10 years like doing what you think you heard me say. Most people, they have a pretty good idea of what they could and or should do, but there's just something holding them back. So them just hearing someone say, yeah, go do that. Sometimes that's all they need. So obviously you've thought about this a lot. Gun to your head right now, if I'm like, hey, you got to make a decision, what do you think you would do? What do you think you could do?
So I've thought about this in terms of where my skills are at. I could go consult for other SaaS software companies tomorrow and present go-to-market strategies, put together a framework, sell it as courses, help with recruitment, training, all the like smaller startup tech companies where they don't have experience like I do. I could plug myself in as a fractional CRO.
Yeah.
About that. Don't want to do it. Outside of that, where my head's at is either taking or starting a new services type business. I feel I just need something to start with and to get over this initial hump. I was like, should I start a cleaning company? Anything like that I know I can go recruit a team. I could put something together. It would be very little financial risk to me and my family to do this. If it works, great. If it doesn't, at least I tried, and go from there. So where my head's at is some sort of services type company. I'm not sitting on a ton of liquid cash myself. I'm sure I could come up with some if needed. Now, when I say a ton, like I don't have $400,000 or $500,000 in liquid cash. I have access to some to the extent that I could put in 300 or 400 or 500 myself tomorrow. I mean, thinking to start with a services type to at least get off the ground. I feel though, as soon as I got something started, I would get past that initial hump and then you do something, get it going, get someone in to manage that for me. I could go on to the next thing and just keep adding and adding to that. That's what I do here at this company. When we started off, I was the only person. Now we have about 15 people that report to me. I figure out a new problem, I solve it, I get someone in to do it, move on to the next thing. And I just keep doing that. Awesome. And I've been doing that for, I've been with the company now 13 or 14 years. So I have experience in recruitment, managing teams, building processes, workflow, optimizing. So I'm not afraid of that at all and hiring people to, and I know I don't want to be doing the stuff that I know I can hire someone for much cheaper to do.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's just, honestly, man, it's where do I start? And
Yeah, yeah.
I've thought like, should I go look at some companies that I could purchase from someone who's, like 60, 65, some plumber who's looking to get out of the business, who hasn't done much in terms of growth,
Uh-huh.
has a smaller team, has some reputable customers. I could take that and kill it. But in terms of upfront cash flow or cash to purchase, that's where a roadblock for that presents. I know there's a solution to every problem. I'm sure we could figure it out. I could go get money somewhere. But my thing, man, I don't know if it's in my head, if I need to talk to a therapist instead of you, but
No, no, you're good, man. You're good.
it's literally like, where do I start? And I don't know if I need someone to tell me, go fucking go do this. Or here's where I think you should go if you're thinking services. Here's 3 or 4 different ideas. I go do some of that and start one. That's
Okay.
where I'm starting.
So it sounds to me, you said you don't want to consult in the software space, the SaaS space, nor do you want to be a fractional CRO. Does that also include you have no interest in starting like your own SaaS company?
Funny you mention that. So we got a couple of ideas of how to set up a software company right now. I would certainly go
Okay.
that route.
So to me, now there are a couple things. There are what you're good at, what you're familiar with, and then you mentioned that you have the passion. So the goal is either picking a hybrid of those. You don't want to do something you absolutely do not want to do. Like when I hear you saying, I don't want to do that, I'm like, okay, don't do something you don't want to do, right? But to me, you are everything that everybody wants and wishes they had and or doesn't realize that they need. Like ideas are easy. I can come up with 100 ideas like in a day. Ideas are a dime a dozen. You just need the execution. You have the best skills. Like if I was going to hire or work with anybody to partner with or team, it would be a CRO, hands down. So you are in the best position to actually be successful at a business. It's just decision. Most people struggle making a decision. And it's because we're looking for that perfect decision. It does not exist. Like there is no perfect decision. But indecision, by not making a decision, you are making a decision. So that's kind of like might be like a little mind hack.
Mm-hmm.
As if someone who doesn't want to make a decision or is afraid to make a decision because they might make the wrong decision, you are guaranteed that you're making the wrong decision. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I hear you. I mean, to me, the obvious answer is either start your own software company and or find someone that you can work with to get equity and or do some kind of like white label software company. So that's kind of where I would think would be out. But I hear you say service business as well. And the fact that you are a CRO and you've built teams, you probably feel confident you can grow that. And there's not a right or wrong answer to that. Let's kind of like choose your own adventure type thing, right? Like right now in this moment, and this can change, but what we want to do is we want you to have a decision because then what's going to happen is your brain is going to start focusing on that decision. And by tomorrow or the next day, you're either going to be like heading in that direction and you're going to start to solve problems and see, and this gets more in depth as you go down that path. Because all of
Right.
a sudden, these tens of millions of ideas, after you start to like enter this corridor, this path, they're just white noise. Right now, you're in this spot of like the world is your oyster, but also the world is confusing and they're trying to consider millions of ideas. So we got to start narrowing this down. So as right now, based on what you said and based on what's obvious to me, I say you either go down the SaaS path or the service path. So just pick one. It doesn't mean that this is what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
You can change your mind at any time,
Mm-hmm.
but we got to make a decision. So you got 3 seconds. Pick one. Which one would you pick?
Right now, I would go down the services path.
Okay. Now that I know that you would go down that, I want to understand why that versus SaaS. Because SaaS is obvious to me, but you're looking at a guy who I will never watch another house flipping show in my life. I have no interest in flipping houses. I have no interest in teaching people how to flip houses because I've done that for so long. Is that part of it? Is it that you've done SaaS for so long that you're just like, I just want to do something else? Is that what we're looking at?
You're absolutely right. It's a
Okay.
grind. I got a few ideas for great SaaS companies, and it's not that I don't want to do them. It's just I don't want to do them right now.
Yeah.
I've been in this grind for so long, and in this
Sounds good.
bootstrap SaaS company, and it's like it's eating at me, Justin, to the point of I need to get the creative juices flowing somewhere else,
Okay.
and someone else might be in another SaaS company, and you could be 100% right.
I love it.
But for me right now, it's like I need
Okay,
a new,
perfect.
a new
Then you
challenge.
should follow that because we have the hierarchy of needs. If you aren't able to eat and have shelter, okay, you just need to go do whatever it takes. Whatever it is that's the highest and best use of your time to make the most money, that's part of it. Once you have those basic needs taken care of, if you're not happy in what you're doing, if you're dreading it every day, then it's not going to matter. You're not going to be happy and you're also not going to be motivated to wake up and do that thing. So,
So let me preface all that. I'm happy right now, and my job, like I don't have trouble sleeping. I enjoy
awesome.
waking up every day. Like there's all, I'm in a good spot. To your
Yeah.
point, yeah, I'm very comfortable. My family's very comfortable. I feel like I need more, and I'm not capitalizing on that. So to your point, yes, roof over the head, family's fed, and my boys are in a real good spot. We can do
Yeah.
the thing. I want to do more? 100%, but there's no stress in the current role to the point of
Yes.
like, I hate this.
Yeah.
I just feel like I need something different.
Okay.
That's the piece.
How many hours are you putting in right now a week?
Some weeks could be 50, some weeks, I mean, never more than 60.
Okay. Is your goal to, I assume your goal is to have a business that can replace your current income
Yes.
and yeah. So are you thinking you want to start the business first or you want to quit your job? Like, do you have a bunch of savings? You just want to like quit the job, start the business, or you want to do it on the side and then grow into it?
Yeah, certainly the latter. I think there's an opportunity for me to do less at my current day to day and
Okay.
create space and time for a side hustle.
Okay. And you mentioned a cleaning business. Does
Yeah,
that,
for no rhyme or reason.
okay.
I think other businesses to get a cleaning business. And this is the thing, I could look at 50 ideas of services businesses. I'll be honest, like I haven't been down that path
Okay.
to do that sort of exercise.
Yeah, no, you're good. But that's because you're considering millions of options,
Right,
right?
right,
So we're
right.
trying to get you into this corridor to where you're only considering 50 options, right? So, so it's like, okay, we've narrowed it down to from millions to a handful, right? I love service businesses. Some people don't think they seem as sexy and exciting, but it is probably the path to least resistance as far as to start being able to get out there and make money. So many people want to be a YouTuber or a podcaster or write a blog, which, now blogs even these days are dying, but that's a long haul type thing. So I love that that's where your mind is. I think that's a great place. I actually really like the cleaning business. I'm not a cleaning expert. Could I start? I have no doubt. I could start a cleaning business and very successful cleaning business within 2, 3 years. No problem. If I went all in within a year. So if that speaks to you, are there any other service businesses?
Yeah, so that's the thing. I haven't fully went down
Okay.
that path yet.
The thing I like about cleaning, especially for you, is there's not a lot of barrier to entry, right? Most people have homes and they need it cleaned and they need it cleaned often. To my knowledge, it's not like a plumber or electrician where there's additional specialized skill or like heavy machinery and all this stuff that you need to start. And there's pros and cons to the barriers to entry. I listened to a guy recently who was saying that he is doing septic. He's getting into septic because he likes the fact that you have to buy $250,000 truck so that it keeps the competition down. On the other hand, low barrier to entry, especially with what you're doing as a side hustle while you're still keeping your job. I think that's great.
It's a good point. It doesn't have to be cleaning business. Something that I can do as a somewhat side hustle and grow it in the amount of time that I have per week. Say I can dedicate 15 hours per week to this, 15, 20 hours per week, to such a point that sometime in the next year or two, I could hire someone else to run it for me. So I could go on to something else and
Uh-huh.
then get rid of my current
Okay.
role. That's kind of that way. What I need to do in that first business, to be honest with you, just I don't care what it is. I kind of resonate with how you feel. There's a problem going on. I
Yep.
know how to solve that problem,
Yep.
or I can find out how to solve that, or find
Exactly.
someone who can help me solve it. Cool. I'll connect
Yeah.
those, I'll figure it out. I can work in the background and get these things going and go to it. What that problem is, I'm not as concerned about. I'm really not. I think I
Yeah.
can figure it out. But what
Yep.
fits within that kind of fit, like that amount of time I have with the resources I have to be able to capitalize on that, what I just talked about, like a year and a half, get someone else to manage it. Maybe I continue to work my 9 to 5 for the next 2 to 3 years. Still, I have enough of this where I can get rid of my 9 to 5 and then maybe have 1 to 2 to 3 of these companies going at the same time and
Yep.
having someone kind of manage all three
Sure.
so I can spend more time
Yeah.
creating.
So let's do this because it's just fun exercise. Like our brain solves problems. But once again, if it's trying to solve the problem of like a million different businesses, it makes it difficult. So as of right now, you've helped me kind of eliminate for now, like the SaaS thoughts, which is where I was kind of going into this at the beginning. I like the idea of you either starting a cleaning business or, you mentioned buying a business. How do you feel when you think about potentially buying a business? Have you looked at that all? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
There's probably assets already set up. There's already a team in place. They already have proven revenue generation. I like all of those things. The only thing I don't have at my fingertips right now is the capital to do it. But
Well, look, so let's
like,
talk about that. Let's talk about the capital real quick, just so we could have that not be a barrier in your mind. What's your financial situation kind of look like right now?
in terms of my own resources,
Yeah, do you have reserves or savings or potential money? Like, do you have any capital that you could put towards this or not really?
probably got like 100K that I in cash that I could put towards it.
Okay. 100K that you could put towards it, right? Not like, oh, I should probably keep 50 in the bank but I could put 50 towards, but you have 100K that you could put potentially
I
towards it.
yeah, I could come up with 100K that I could put towards it.
So I've never bought a business, just so you know. Like I try to give you the context. Once again, a lot of times you got to be careful with whose opinion you ask because people will give you their opinion, but you got to know the context of where they come from. So I'm being just saying I've never bought a business. I've started businesses. I've done a ton of real estate investing. I've sold a business. I've been very interested in the buying business space, like buying especially these service-based businesses that you're talking about. So I've been kind of geeking out because I want to bring that into Millionaire University more, almost get like, professors or mentors teaching more about that. I've been kind of following this guy a little bit named Nick. We've actually had him on our podcast before, but he has a podcast called Nickonomics. They often refer to the SMB, small medium business. When I first heard that term, even earlier this week, it's like SMB, what are they referring to? So he's big on Twitter and he talks to a bunch of people who are in the SMB space. So he has a bunch of businesses that he has bought, like with different partners. And then he has like a holding company that he holds these in. He has one main partner. So it's fascinating. Like there are websites, just like realtor.com. One's called Buy Biz Sell, I think, if I'm saying it right. I haven't actually gone to it. But there are a few websites that have these different businesses for sale. And once you know more about the business that you want to buy specifically, there are websites that talk about those businesses. So are you familiar with like the SBA program, like SBA loans, small business loans, essentially? So you can get, if you have a business that you're buying, you can get a bank loan. And typically, just like a house, you have to put down like 20%, right? So I would not recommend to buy a business using all of your own capital. You just may
Right.
need some of your capital. So essentially, if you have 100,000, you could potentially buy a business with bank money at 5 times that. So you could buy a business for 500,000. Now the SBA loan, what they do is they come in and they give additional capital to help first-time business owners buy a business. So in that case, you can sometimes just put down 10%, which means you could either invest only 50,000 of your own money and potentially buy a $500,000 business, or you could buy $1 million business. On top of that, you have investors you could bring in. There are people out there that will invest in a business that are private individuals. They'll invest in real estate, they'll invest in businesses. I mean, this is just common sense, right? People like to make money, like to invest in things. So there's two different ways you could borrow money from an individual, and that is either a flat rate of return. Like most people are very happy if they can get like a 10% rate of return, right? Or they could get equity in the deal. Go ahead.
Where where would you start if you're looking for private investors?
I mean, I'm an investor. You know what I mean? Everywhere. I would talk to just everybody you know. The key first is you're going to want to get a little more clarity on what you're looking to do. And I say this with nuance because you don't have a lot of clarity when you're talking to me, but you knew something. You knew you wanted to start a business. So that's the first step of clarity. You knew you wanted to start and or buy a business. You got some clarity. So if you go to an individual that you don't know that well and you're like, I want to start a business, I don't know in what, and I don't know what I can pay you. Are you in? No one's going to be in, right? So it's like the
I get it.
more clarity you can get But if you're talking to, for me, you're calling me as like a coach, right? But if you're speaking to like a close friend, maybe you guys could light up a conversation there, right? But I have borrowed money from friends, family. One of my dad's coworkers lent us millions of dollars over the course of time, right? Once you start borrowing private money, it doesn't stop. They come up with more. They say they had 100 grand and they have 200 grand, right? So I know we don't need to get into the weeds too much of this because you don't need that much money, especially with the SBA program. Like you probably don't even need to borrow money from anyone. I'm just saying you do not need money to start a business. Okay. You don't need money to buy a business, or you just need a little bit of money, depending on how you go about it.
Right.
The money is out there. Money follows the deal. If people believe that they can get a good return, they're going to be interested. Okay. So Nick's podcast, we're considering talking to him about coming on, kind of how like Brian and Kirsten do. Anyway, my point is listen to his podcast, check it out. I would just look into more of how do I buy a business? I would look up some websites. I would go on some of these websites and I'll send you some links. Flippa is another one, flippa.com, and then Buy Biz Sell, I think is what it's called. You can even just Google or Chat GPT, different websites that are brokering sites. So different ways you can go about buying these is look on the websites, look what's available. You try to make relationships with the brokers. There are people who are in charge of selling these businesses. And then the third way, which isn't the way that I would recommend, it's not what like Nick recommends for like a first-time buyer, would be to try to go through like a private individual. And to go through a private individual, that's just a whole lot more nuanced. But you'll learn a ton just by looking at these businesses. So now we're at this point where you're like, okay, you have new information. You realize, okay, I don't need a ton of money to buy this business. So now you want to decide if you want to buy a business or start a business, essentially. But I think looking at a lot of these businesses for sale, you're going to learn so much because you're going to learn what they're for sell for. You're going to get a better idea of like what's out there and what kind of business maybe you would want to start. And essentially, most businesses sell for anywhere from 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4. Most of these like service type based businesses, the amount of the net profit, right? EBITDA, as they say. Mm-hmm. So I would check out some of those. I'd kind of get a feel and then just decide if you want to buy a business or if you think you want to start. If you do start one, I do think cleaning would be a great gateway place to start. I was listening to a guy, he specializes in cleaning the hoods, like at restaurants and things like that. That's all that he does. And they kill it in that. Then someone else we had on our podcast, I don't know, maybe you heard them, but they have a franchise that cleans grills. They clean people's grills. And I think then they added on the service of cleaning their stoves. So the reason why I like you starting with a cleaning business is because I think you can get going on that. And then you can still just focus on either the mainstream cleaning and or you can either niche down further or you could broaden from there. Right. It's the hourglass. That's what I think business is. I'm not saying to not take any time doing research because now you have new information. Now you're like, oh, do I want to buy a business or not? I don't want to send you down a whole nother rabbit hole for 6 months. I'm thinking spend like a few days just like looking at these different businesses, then decide if you think you want to buy or if you want to start. If you want to start, you don't need as much due diligence, in my opinion, but just don't go spend a bunch of money either. Then we just get to action, right? If you know you want to start one, if you know you're going to start a cleaning business, let's go. You're going to get into action. A week later, you might decide, I don't want to start this cleaning. I don't want to do a cleaning business for whatever reason. I'm not saying you will, but then your brain gets hyper-focused on something. People try to take all their focus and attention and hyper-focus it on 10 different things. You're going to get nowhere really fast. So our main goal is just to get you hyper-focused on something. You've already expressed to me that you don't really care what it is. And that's how I was too. With my satellite dish business, flipping houses, even education business, I was a little more passionate about teaching than I was doing these other things, but I still didn't necessarily want to teach. Like now I'm in something that I'm a lot more passionate about for sure. But before I was just passionate about building the systems, building the business, making more money for my family, being able to travel, being able to give back, all these things, right? I have all those things now. So now I need to have a passion of, okay, this is something I really enjoy and want to talk about. I want to create this thing, right? What do you think about all that?
That's helpful. I think I'll spend the weekend.
Exactly.
I'll be looking at stuff. And you mentioned use ChatGPT to go that route. I can frame that up very, very quickly and
Yeah.
look at a few different websites and get a concept of, I was thinking cleaning for starting something, but going to purchase something, that could be radically different. I still like the idea of services. I think,
Oh yeah.
honestly, feel I can take any business, and if someone's having some struggle with growth, things like that,
Totally.
like there's probably some levers that can be pulled, or
Yep.
in terms of marketing, that I can jump in and optimize it very, very quickly.
Yep.
Just what does that look like,
Yeah,
right?
I would still focus on service type based businesses,
Yeah.
but see what's out there for sale. You might find a little service based business that I don't want to throw out too many numbers, but like maybe it's a $250,000. Maybe you get an SBA loan, you put in 25 grand, and then you have this business that's already generating a decent amount of cash flow, but hopefully it doesn't, you want to find something that you can do for 15, 20 hours a week. And then, like you said, pull a couple levers, figure out, well, how can I grow this, grow it, double the income, and then, slowly leave your position that you're currently at if that's the goal, right?
But
When I hear you talk about like having like multiple of these, if you're going to start a business, I mean, it's hard to start multiple business. I mean, you could after like several years start like another one. But if you buy one that's already going, systematize that, get that going, then you can either double down on that, grow that even more, maybe go to another location. It just gives you lots of options, but at least you're not looking at millions of ideas. You're kind of more in this genius zone. So check out some of those websites. Check out Nick's podcast, Nickonomics. There are other people out there talking about this stuff. I don't use Twitter a lot, but there's like a group in there that's talking about this stuff quite a bit. So I would just start dumping in the information. You may not understand 100% of everything that they're talking about. You'll pick up on it. I remember going to my first seminar and I'm like, I don't know what these guys are talking about, but over you keep learning and you'll pick up on a lot of it. You know a lot about a lot of business concepts. And then let's just finish off here and then hit me up next week. Shoot me an email, let me know how it's going. I just want to like seeing people succeed.
cool. Okay.
Yeah.
I will do that.
Awesome.
This has been very helpful.
Hey, you're a stud, Mike. Good talking to you. Good meeting you, and look forward to seeing where this goes. This is fun.
All right, buddy. Thanks, Justin.
Okay, talk to you later.
See you, man.
Let's give it up for Mike Bowman. Special thanks once again to Mike for being willing to let us share this episode with you on the podcast. It can be very vulnerable talking about where we're at, where we're stuck, where we need help. But there's really only so many places that people get stuck. So Mike, you sharing with us where you are stuck, I have no doubt will help so many people today. So thanks again. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing where you go on your journey. So as we close for today, think about you and your situation. Where are you stuck? What's the one little thing, the one little tweak that you might need? Define what success looks like for you. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you gotta have some kind of goal, even if it changes up over time, some destination that you're trying to get to. Because if you don't know where you're going, all roads will take you there. But once you know, your mind will start to find these paths, these ways. They'll overcome these obstacles and help you get there. And as always, if you have any questions for us, got any questions for me, hit us up. Maybe we can answer your questions on an upcoming MU podcast. So keep it going. You got this. We believe in you. Believe in yourself. This is Justin Williams signing off on a somewhat foggy day in Cardiff, California. Until next time, class dismissed.